Akari, welcome to Live the Width of Your Life podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to dive in.
I am so excited that you are here. Before we hit record, we just spent some time talking, and it was one of those conversations I was like, we have to hit record because all the good stuff is already coming out. So I love when that happens so much.
It is
Yeah.
it is one of those synchronicities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we dive too far in, I really would love for you to share a little bit about your background. I know that you are the founder of the Akary Mind Body Soul and that you are so passionate about the work that you do. But how did you get started in the line of work that you do?
We were talking before. It's all about that human design, that 1-3, that profile. It's been life experience. We were talking about this and I shared with you that I feel like I've lived a million lives because of all of the different curious avenues that my research has taken me into. And I've experienced that feeling where I was exhausted, where I had no idea what was happening in my body. And I couldn't even name it because there was no available name for it, even though it existed, but we don't talk about it enough. And so I've gone through a few different burnouts in my life. And the last one was more of a juggling corporate, juggling family, juggling life, juggling kid, and everything just kind of toppling down. And not even knowing, my office closed in downtown Los Angeles. And it was that pause that where my body just started falling apart. It was like it was being held by band-aids, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God, Band-Aids and like dental floss. It's like, how do we hold ourselves together? I relate to that so much because I had the same experience in corporate. I was in corporate 25 years. How long were you in corporate?
Oh my gosh, for about 20 years.
Yeah. And it was one of those slippery slopes. It's interesting. And I don't know if this is your experience, but I find this with women and my coaching clients too. We may feel ourselves starting to get really tired. We might start to feel the symptoms of burnout. But for me, instead of responding to it with kindness or grace or love and compassion to myself, I just decided I was going to dig in because I could do hard things. And I was going to prove that I was not going to be broken. And it's one of those crazy things as I look back and go, who told me that that was like the right thing to do? It didn't work. I mean, I had health scare and all kinds of challenges. And my husband's like, who are you? All these things happen, right? Like when we go down this path. But I don't know why. I think sometimes as women, we feel like if we give in or we say whatever, this isn't working, that's somehow a personal failure.
And it's weakness.
Yes, it's weakness.
It's weakness. I mean, think about this. We're constantly gaslit.
Yeah.
And then we start gaslighting ourselves. It's like someone gave us permission to gaslight ourselves, and we don't allow ourselves to rest and we don't allow ourselves to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that generational gift. I mean, if you look at your mom, if you look at your grandma, if you start looking, you will find those patterns already been set there. And it's ingrained in us on how productive women need to be and how together we've got to have everything. And I remember I had to go pick up a coworker, a colleague in our little business suits. Like I used to call him my monkey suit. And we were going up the escalator of the Bank of America building, trying to cross to the Wells Fargo building. And then all of a sudden, the stuff that she's carrying falls, and all the papers start getting eaten by the escalator as it's, moving. It's one of those moments where I thought, I am not the only one who doesn't have it together.
No. Oh
But
my
they look so perfect, so
Yes.
like pressed, immaculate, and there's no trace. There's no trace in the corporate communities where women can fall apart.
No. And even admit that we might need something else. I remember pretending, even though I was a mother and everyone knew I was a mother, and of course there are obligations that come with that, but pretending that I didn't need to miss work. If you took time off for something, you had to take like a vacation day. You didn't want to say, oh, I need to leave early to go to a recital or something like that because I didn't have someone at home who could do that for me. My husband was working. So that was like a weird story. And then at home, just feeling like I had to respond in the way that a stay-at-home mom could for my daughters and for my husband. And so you have these two sets of pressures that nobody really put them on me. I mean, I think I honestly took them on myself because I felt like I
Have
had
you
to.
We step right
Yeah,
into it.
right. And so you just kind of do that until, for me, it was also a pause where I had to take a step and I was just like, wait a second, this is not working. And it's so incredible that when we finally take the break and rest or pause or take time off, that we allow ourselves to listen to that inner voice that tells us, oh, yeah, there's a different way. This doesn't have to be your reality. What was that for you? So you said you paused and you suddenly started asking yourself different questions or noticing maybe.
It's interesting because there was a lot going on, and the shame, I was shaming myself for needing to find a way to get back into the corporate world and not wanting to. My body just wouldn't let me. I remember I did a tapping session with this young guy who I met in one of these community fairs that they were having, and he wrote a book and the whole 9 yards. And I was like, all right, I'm going to volunteer. And he starts tapping my way into, and I felt re traumatized. I was like, there's no way I want to go back. And I was in the banking world, so very male dominated.
Me too.
And just where you, oh my God, what a coincidence.
I
So
know.
thinking about being in a boardroom with a bunch of men or CEOs, I was like, no, like it just didn't feel good in my body. And it was like a visceral reaction to the of the generator going, yeah, not doing
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
and the curiosity started leading me down to learning different types of meditation because I could not meditate for the life of me. There was no way that I could sit still. And I remember trying several different things. And one of them wanted us to sit for 20 minutes. My daughter and I went to it, and she did beautifully. And I was the one who was like, this is just so boring. And that's how I ended up coming into breath work
Mhm.
almost 10, 11 years ago. No one was talking about it. It was like really like underground. And when I found it, I was like, this is exactly what I needed when I was in that corporate hamster wheel.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I did yoga and meditation first and then somatic breath work probably
Mm,
within the last 5 years, but it was new. And I did pranayama as part of yoga, but it's different, I think. And so when I found the somatic breath work also, I realized that, oh, this could be really helpful for me. And it has been, but also for my clients who, like you, do not like meditation, who really have the monkey mind and don't want to sit through it, or it's too uncomfortable. And so it's so nice to be able to have additional practices that you can pull on and that are really helpful. And for me, I love breath work. I do it every morning. My husband does it with me before we even start the day. And he never would have done that in the past.
yeah. I think, especially for women, because we're constantly planning ahead, constantly figuring things out, we're never really present. Active breath work is us actively participating in our meditation.
Yes.
And that is what I really love. But just disconnecting from my body and being able to go different places and that big exhale, that
Hmm.
big exhale. And that was it. I was hooked. Everything else I had taken before, the crystal classes, the essential oils, all of that was secondary to this. This became my tunnel vision. I was like, this is amazing. And the way they train here is very different than how they train in like England, in the
Mm.
UK, because it is regulated in the UK. And so
Oh,
they have a whole curriculum similar to the yoga curriculum where they have to have like 200 hours, 600
yeah.
hours. So very similar. They have a curriculum and they go through all the different types of breath work, who should and shouldn't be doing breath work,
Hmm.
trauma that can be
Yeah.
uncovered through this process, the nervous system. And I was just like, okay, so we just got cheated here from all of this richness. And so I developed my own curriculum for me. And I don't teach it, but I created a curriculum for myself. And that's how I ended up going down the rabbit hole of nervous system work.
When you first read about nervous system regulation and you actually had words that you could use and apply, what was that like for you? Because I remember like when I started learning more about it.
It gave me permission to sigh and to really stop blaming. Like you stay in that victim space of, well, they did this to me, especially like our givers and weren't there for me. All of that stopped because I realized, hmm, this story isn't like even real because my amygdala and my hippocampus, it was like the irony of everything. And then I started getting a little angry at the brain, thinking the brain is so arrogant, thinking
Mhm.
it knows better than I do. And so I struggle with the concept of there's a lot of things that I don't remember, but that I feel like I know are true in my heart. And learning to trust my heart over my brain, that has been the big shift.
It's such a game changer because as you think about it from a spiritual sense, and I know not everyone is spiritual, but our spirit is eternal, right? It's energy. Energy doesn't die. So if we kind of get behind that, the brain and the development of the prefrontal cortex and our ability to think and make decisions and all these things, that is like last. Our spiritual body, our energetic body, our emotions, our personality, all those things happen before we're actually have a fully developed brain. And
Yeah.
yet we glorify the brain and we try to put everything through that processing system. And for me, I know in human design, I want to talk about this. Like, that's not how I make my decisions. For me, when I learned that I can trust my sacral and I can actually listen to my body and not try to override it, because every time I have, I've regretted it afterwards. That too really made me feel like, oh, I'm not going to gaslight myself, like you said. I can actually trust this. I have this intelligence system within me outside of the mind, and the mind can be really tricked and it can trick us into thinking things that aren't real.
Yeah, that and what happens is that fear that we have of making mistakes. As women,
Mhm.
there's such a huge unspoken expectation placed on us on perfection, on
Yeah.
getting it right all the time. It's a huge burden for us to carry. And so because of that, we end up not trusting ourselves and really following our authority and how we should be making decisions and understanding what clarity feels like because it looks and feels different for everyone. For me, it's visceral. It's to the point that if I hardly eat out, but when I do and it's not good for me, I can't even bring the food into my mouth. Like it won't even let me.
Wow.
And then I will just set it down and I'm like, I can't eat this. And my partner, of course, he's like, I'll eat it. And then all of a sudden goes in and then he's got like stomach issues or doesn't feel well after.
Yeah.
That's just how like my body is responding after practicing and experimenting with that. And
Got it. So let's talk about human design because you know so much about this and you work with your clients. So I'm curious, when did you discover human design and what did that do when you also learned about your particular design?
I was angry. I was angry about it because I learned about human design through the traditional like language of human design, which is meant to wake us up. So
Mhm.
it's like, come on, you can wake up. So when I found out I was a generator, I was in New York City with a friend and she says, "You're the slave of the world. You're here to work."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound sexy." Like, I don't think so. And it gave me an opportunity to like my body again viscerally was like, eh, like I am nobody's slave. Through the years, I got initiated by a couple of friends who were starting their own little business at the time, like 2019. And they were starting their podcast and they're like, we really want you on our podcast. So I was like number 8 on their podcast. Well, their podcast exploded. And with that, my business exploded. So they initiated me into the world of human design, kicking and screaming because I didn't want to be a part of this movement that was happening. And as I started to get deeper into it, I met a woman, Karen Curry Parker, and she created quantum human design. And so through the lens of quantum human design, we changed the wording, we changed the frequency of the type of words that we use. And so a generator is here to create, to build, and to find joy in their work, a worker bee.
yeah.
And that just sounds so much more appealing than
Yes.
being a slave to the world. So traditional human design, I see it as like the shadow part of who we are.
Oh,
And then as
interesting.
we start to initiate, then we can start seeing things through the quantum lens. Because if you think about it, yeah, think about how many years we spent at corporate. We put our head down, and as much as we hated it, every day, 5 in the morning, we're up doing the things that we need to do. And we complain about it, but we do absolutely nothing to change it
Yeah.
until finally your body, your situation, whatever makes you stop and reevaluate things. So that's where quantum human design really just takes my heart because it changes all of that with a lot of love and compassion. And we change the word to have higher frequency meaning. And then you start to, for me, it was looking for what I was passionate about. And I'm a historian. I have my bachelor's in history, but it is really influenced by women's studies. And so I dedicated a lot of my studying into women history. And so when you're talking about the corporate world, or when we talk about the hyphen, where we live in that hyphen, whether we're Mexican American, Croatian American, whatever it is, we live on this hyphen. And so I look at everything from a macro and then a micro. And so then we have mainstream culture, and then we have our social culture, our own ethnic culture, whatever it is that we identify with. And so we have two different paradigms that are pulling us constantly. They, the mainstream, shame us for being so cultural. The cultural shames us for being too mainstream. And so then you're living in one world with two sets of rules, constantly trying to keep up with these changing rules to comply with whatever is going to make whoever happy. And typically it's our mothers because we get a lot of pressure from them. And finally, it's like breaking away with the conditioning. And that's where human design comes in, where I am no longer going to live by the things that you believe, the things that you believe, and the things that you think I should be or not be. I am going to start taking a moment to dive into what makes me happy, what brings me joy, and what like really feels in my body like is the right thing to do. And that's what human design became for me.
It's so interesting. You and I have lived parallel lives. So, did you immigrate as a child from
Yes,
Mexico?
I was about 2 years old when I came.
I was 4 when I came from the Yugoslavia at the time. And so I spoke no English when I started kindergarten. So for me too, it was trying to find like, what is this identity? How do I become more American? And then when I would visit family, how do I maintain my ethnicity? Right. So it's like you're always trying to figure out what the rules are and how do you keep the family pleased and also blend in. I'm like, last thing I wanted to do was be different. I mean, during the times when I was here in the 70s in elementary school, I'm like, that's not what I want to do. And so and I find that that was something then that I was doing also in banking. And it's really funny because one of my minors was in women's studies in college too. Yeah, I was a lit major with French and women's studies, and then I went into banking. So crazy. So it was also kind of the same. I don't know what it is. It's interesting. Maybe it's the 1-3 in us. Maybe you just had to do things the hard way, I felt like, in order to prove things. I'm not sure what that
Well,
reason.
part of it is this learn we can, but it doesn't allow us to be authentic and genuine. We get to go through these lived experiences so that we can help guide others through them.
Mhm.
And knowledge and wisdom, right? Knowledge is very heavy, whereas wisdom is light because you've actually lived through it. And it gives depth to our coaching, to how we guide, to how we speak to others.
Oh, what would you say the quantum human design definition is, or how do you like to think of the frequency for manifesting generators, which is what I am? And I know you and I are both 1-3s.
Yes. So through the quantum lens, we look at manifesting generators as what we call time benders.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. See, this beautiful manifesting generator is here to find shortcuts to life. And
Mm,
so as you're building really fast. You're a lot faster than a regular generator. So where a generator is linear, and they call us alchemists, which is so crazy, right? Because I feel like I've lived a million lives. I'm much more linear. I like process. I like to see that step kind of move through. With a manifesting generator, what I see is speed.
mm,
And so the way that we describe both of them because you're a hybrid. You're little manifester, a lot generator. And so we describe it as the tortoise and the hare.
Mm.
The tortoise is the generator. Like, if you want anything done, just call me, right? And the time bender is off looking at all of these different things and has all these passions and all of these projects moving. And the depth with which you finish a project is amazing. No one can compare it to, because as you're going through one project and the next, you're picking up things that normally, well, no one else is, right? Because we're not as curious. Manifesting generators, tons of energy, a lot of just innate curiosity, which gets defined even more with that profile number 3. So it's just very rich. I find 1-3 profiles very interesting. And then as a manifesting generator, even more. My partner is the same. So he goes down like these rabbit holes of things that I'm not interested in, like aliens or Bigfoot. But it's so interesting because we start to connect all of these different dots, especially now as the veil continues to thin even more. And more conspiracy theories start to come together. The Great Awakening is coming. And so we start connecting all these dots. And I find it so fascinating because when I have deep conversations and wide conversations, it's normally 1-3 profiles.
Yeah. I love them too. My friend Sarah's a 1-3, and she and I are always like, she's so in her head. She's a generator too. So it's so interesting. I love when she talks because there's always so much wisdom there. Like, I just love listening to her process things. Like, I'm sacral. So for me, I can get a really fast yes or no, or sometimes I don't feel anything, which then is like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But I think she has more of an emotional response. So she takes a little bit longer to kind of process things. So fascinating. So, with all of this, tell me how you work with clients. So, if someone's listening and they're like, I've heard of human design, but I'm not quite sure what that is, or I definitely know that I'm burned out and stressed. If someone were to contact you for the first time, what do you do? What does it look like for them to work with you?
I am not your traditional coach. Again, I do a lot of different experimentation. So at this point, I actually ask for lab work
Hmm. Like blood
because
work?
yeah, blood work. I have a whole master class that I am going to be teaching that connects the dots between the human design life cycles and what kind of lab work you should be requesting from your functional doctor or even a nutritionist that you may be working with. Because again, I like looking at the whole picture. And 9 times out of 10, what I have found out with my clients who actually go get lab work is that they're insulin resistant or they're like right at the border of prediabetes.
Hmm.
And when we start to understand the nervous system, we get to see that empty carbs give us empty promise. We're not getting the nutrition and the fuel. And the reason why my business is Mind Body Soul is that if we don't focus on the body, the mind and the soul cannot be aligned.
That is so interesting. And so you get the lab work back, and then do you walk them through all of the details? And so what could that look like? What if someone is insulin resistant and maybe high cortisol, some of the traditional markers like that, some hormones maybe could be off? What are some of the things you would do next with one of your clients?
It really depends on where their life cycle is at and where they fall in. But I do a lot of education around trying to gain some of that rebalancing back if they're willing. And most of the time, it takes a little longer to get them to experiment with food because they're coming in and their nervous system is crashing. The first thing that I need to address is the fire under the hood, which is they feel very dysregulated and can't really get a handle on their either a panic attack or anxiety or just insomnia. But as we start to calm down and we start allowing the body to start feeling safe again, I start to introduce electrolytes into their normal water routine so that they can start feeling again. We're working on safety here.
Yeah.
And then as we start to go deeper into it, then I start to introduce what they should be having for breakfast, because that to me is the biggest piece. Is if you're not having a savory breakfast with protein first, you're not setting yourself up to win for the day.
Wow.
So what you eat really is a reflection of your resiliency. And so I walk them through, and if they're really willing to, and I have done this with just a few of them, is teaching them how to create ketones in their body to lower inflammation so that all of these markers, these cortisol markers, can start coming down, getting their sleep back on track, and then teaching them how to fast by constantly monitoring. I'm a data girl. I'm a 1-3. It's all about the science. I love the woo, but I do love the data that I get from blood work, from these tools that we now have to help them see and start to manage. Because what ends up happening with a lot of them is that if they're getting that 40-year mark, their metabolic system starts shifting. And so, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the job that's like wearing you down, or is it your metabolic system?
Yeah. It's so good. What do you do for women in their middle age, like menopause, maybe like mid 50s, who definitely have had some shifts and maybe they're taking some hormone replacement, maybe they're not, but they definitely are noticing that their body's changing?
So a lot of that is, again, we go back to education. They need to make sure when they're in midlife at that point, I ask them to go get a DEXA scan
Mm,
because when we're in our 40s and estrogen dips, that's when we start noticing that the bone density starts to decrease. And so when they go get a DEXA scan at this point, then now they have a baseline. So they don't even have to worry about that until later when they start noticing things. But they have that baseline so that they can tell if yes or no they're going through some sort of osteopenia or osteoporosis,
mhm.
and then their vitamin D intake, how much time they're taking to be outdoors, all of these tricks of how to be human. It's like reminding you how to go back to basics because we're so accustomed to being indoors, not moving, not doing anything but sitting at a desk constantly. And that creates a lot of stress for the body. So I really do introduce that whole concept of going back to basics and reminding you to be human.
Yeah. You're the second person that told me about the DEXA scan in like a week. My friend Amy had it recently done. I know a little bit, but I would love for you to share with the audience what is it and who would you ask for one of these scans?
So you would ask your general doctor for
Okay.
a DEXA scan. Because we're in the States and depending on what your insurance looks like, if your mother or your grandmother had or have osteoporosis, then there's a chance that you may get it as well because it's hereditary, it's genetic. So I would really stress that with a practitioner so that they can write to the insurance and get authorization for you to get one. I know here in Southern California, we're very fortunate. We have a company called Body Spec that goes through a lot of the different fitness locations in the area. And it's like maybe 50 to $100 for a DEXA scan. And what it is like an MRI machine. It just scans you and
Mhm.
it's measuring the density in your bones. So the first stage is you start getting closer to what's called osteopenia. And then after that, that's when you end up in osteoporosis if you don't do anything about it. So I jump rope and I walk with a weighted vest just to add more weight. It's because it's a weight loading thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So jumping on box, like some of the things you do at CrossFit, jump rope, maybe the reformer, those kinds of things, right, are all pretty good for it.
The rebounder, right?
Yes.
Especially if you have mobility issues, the rebounder is really, really good to start just moving the body and everything in moderation, everything slow. I know manifesting generators love to just get in there and do it, taking it easy to see how your body starts to respond to things. And so those are the kind of things that I start introducing a lot of the women that I work with, again, because I'm looking at the whole picture, especially when I'm working with women over 60 who no one told them to go do these things. It's harder to recover because here's the thing, with osteoporosis, if you start doing the weightlifting and walking with a weighted vest, you can reverse that bone density issue.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing.
And of course, I'm a big proponent of bioidentical hormones for the same reason, because as we hit midlife, it's your brain, right? Alzheimer's, dementia. It is the metabolic system, which is that insulin. Then we get the cardiovascular issues. And especially for women, our heart issues are not as traumatic as men, big surprise. So we don't even know or are aware that we're having cardiovascular issues. We're looking at muscle, right? Lose muscle as we age. And then the bone density is like the other big piece. So that's why I'm a big fan of these hormones. You have a lot of different people looking at things differently who shame you for hormones. But if your thyroid wasn't working,
Right.
no one would even blink to tell you, go get yourself on a thyroid hormone.
Right. Which is
So,
forever.
right. Well, yes and no. So that's the whole piece, right? I've gone down these rabbit holes is because
Mhm.
really forever. So because of all the stress, my adrenal glands obviously were exhausted. And one of my burnouts happened to have happened and burned me out so much that my adrenals were gone. And I think they call it hypo
Hypothyroidism.
hypothyroidism. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just doesn't feel right. I was exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
And I went to go see a naturopath, fed my adrenals, and I was done. I didn't have to take the hormone. But yes, it was definitely told to me that it was going to be for life. And I was like, no, I'm not taking this Synthroid for life. And now, because of the stage of my life, I have subclinical Hashimoto's, which by eating differently and making ketones in my body and then fasting accordingly, I have reversed that. All the antibodies are going backwards.
I love this so much. I love being able to do preventative and regenerative. And so I've heard so many mixed messages around fasting for women, maybe in menopause. Some people say it's too much on the body and it increases cortisol. Some people are saying, no, it's actually a good thing to do. Where do you stand, or is it just individualized based on the person?
It is very much individualized. And again, I love tools. So I'm a big proponent of testing. And this is where we take our power back. So there's a little sensor called the Keto Mojo. And what you do is that you poke and you test your glucose and your ketones. You set yourself up for fasting. And when I walk women through fasting, it's not for X amount of hours, it's for however long it takes for your body to get to our goal. So I
Interesting.
teach you how to look for, like, we're fasting for a goal. So once we hit, it's called the GKI level of between 1 and 3, where autophagy happens, where you're starting to renew your cells. Once you hit that, then we feast. And when we feast, we're carb loading. I'm not a believer of zero carbs. We all need carbs for our brain, for our kidneys. So it is about learning how to time all of this. So I tend to eat dinner like the old people between 3 and 5 p.m. because then I can just go ahead and fast all night. By
Yes.
5 in the morning, it's been 12 hours and I'm still asleep.
Yes. Yes. And you feel good, like you sleep better because your heart rate's not working hard, and the digestion. I eat early too for the same reason, because I don't sleep well if I eat too close to bedtime. It's just too hard on my system.
So it's the tracking. I walk women through the tracking. I don't believe that everything has to be done a particular way. I think women who, for example, their leptin hormone is broken. And what I mean about that is that if their leptin hormone is lower than 4 or above 10, we're looking at leptin hormone is what tells us famine or feast, right? So if it's lower than 4, your body is eating itself. It's eating all of your muscle
Wow.
because it's going into famine mode where it doesn't know where it's going to be getting protein. So a lot of people who are skipping their protein, a lot of vegetarians, that ends up happening because it's hard to get protein from plants. So when your leptin is low, then it's your body eating itself. When your leptin is high, right? The signal between the brain and the leptin hormone isn't connecting. And so there's no satiety. So you're eating more than what you should be eating.
Wow. Because you're not satiated. You're not getting the signal that you're satisfied or full.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. I could talk to you forever.
This is why I titled myself an emotional biohacker, because I'm biohacking into the emotions. And again, we're not used to seeing ourselves as a whole. We see ourselves as separate pieces. So we don't look at mental health as being part of nutrition.
Yeah.
We don't look at mental health as part of movement. And so I bring a lot of that awareness back into basics. And like I said, it's a lab work away from really telling you where you need to go first.
So good. And I love how there's so much hope with what you do. because you're saying this isn't forever. You can start to feel better. You can regulate. You can start to take control and be empowered with the decisions that you make. And there are tools to help you monitor, which just feels so good. It feels so good to know that there are options.
We're living longer, right? Women are living longer. Why can't we live longer, conquer, and live fulfilled lives?
There you
Why do
go.
we have to worry about Alzheimer's and dementia and a hip fracture? All of these things are avoidable as much as possible as long as what we do today sets us up for tomorrow.
That's right. That's so good. Akari. And so if someone's listening and they're like, wow, I recognize myself in what you were describing, maybe they're dysregulated, maybe they felt horrible for a long time, or they just don't recognize themselves. What is the easiest way for them to find you?
My website is one that they can go to, uhkare.com. Or my favorite place to be in is Instagram because it's easy and people can come and take a look at some of the information that's there. I love direct contact. I love meeting with people, talking with people, getting to understand what it is that's happening. I'm probably one of the people that just really enjoys touching base. So there's a link on my Instagram link tree to book a 30-minute chit chat and let's just talk about what's going on.
We'll definitely include those links in the show notes. I want everyone to reach out because I will be scheduling a call with you too because I'm getting some blood work soon so we can go through it. And for the final question I ask everybody is, what does it mean to you to live the width of your life?
Because I am a 1-3, I love going wide and deep and everything. I'm so curious about just turning all the stones. And I teach this in my Wild Woman Wednesday community is that there's a box of things that you know. There's a box of things that you don't know, right? I don't know how to cut open a heart. But there's a box of things that I don't even know that I don't even know. And that's the box that I'm chasing.
So good. I love that. The box you don't even know. So good. Akari, you are just so delightful and you are such a bright light in this world. Thank you for doing the amazing work that you are doing. I just wish you so much continued success.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be able to serve women both in my community as well as in your community now and be accessible for those that really need some support. I don't believe that we all have to suffer alone. That lone wolf period is over.
Yes. Amen.